The author says, breaking the fast. One of the sins of the body is wisal. That means fasting 2 consecutive days or more without eating something intentionally, without an excuse. Yani, intentionally not eating something without an excuse. Excluding the messenger of God. This is not a sin for him. Fasting for 2 consecutive days or more without breaking in between is not a sin for the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is obligatory on the believers other than him alayhi salatu wassalam to break the fast, even by just a sip of water, even by as much as a sip of water. If by observation one confirmed sunset, so that means for sure he knows because he saw the disk of the sun go down. Then it is recommended to rush to break the fast, not to wait. As soon as you are sure that Maghrib is in, break your fast. Don't wait. However, if one has no sign whatsoever of sunset, has no sign of sunset. What does that word sign mean? Sign means clue. He doesn't even have a clue that the sun went down. Or he doubts if the sun went down or not. Then he is not allowed to break the fast. He has to wait until he's sure it's in. Or he has a sign that it's in. A sign that it's in is like a reliable rooster, or an alarm clock, or a reliable mu'adhin. The best is to break the fast with rutab. That's a stage of the dates. And if not, then with dates. And if not, then with busr. That's another stage of the dates. And if not, then with water. Before praying, recommended to break your fast before you pray Maghrib. It is recommended to take 3 of whatever one uses. 3 dates, 3 sips of water, or whatever one uses to break his fast. After breaking the fast, it is recommended to say, Allahumma laka sumt wa ala rizqika aftart, ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. O Allah, for you I have abstained, and with your provision I have broken my fast. The thirst has gone, the veins have moistened, and the reward is confirmed, God willing. Make-up fasting. Invalidating the fast without an excuse is forbidden. Major sin. Fast here means obligatory fast. Invalidating the obligatory fast without an excuse is forbidden. Major sin. As well as delaying its makeup. Delaying its makeup is forbidden also, because if you missed it without an excuse, you can't delay it further, because you weren't supposed to delay it in the first place. Permission to delay makeup is for those who did not transgress. Same thing for prayer. If you have many prayers to make up your prayers. If you want, don't take the saying that you can do 2. You can pray the prayer that's in time now. Then you can do 2. Then you can go play. You can go play some video games. Go kick a ball around. You can chill. You can relax. If you want, don't take that saying. If you miss prayers without an excuse, make them up now, because you already missed them without an excuse. Same thing for the fasting. If you missed it without an excuse, you have to make it up immediately after the Eid. By the way, back to the prayer here. So if you miss the prayer without an excuse, and you take this strong saying that you can't delay it because it's not supposed to be delayed in the first place, then that means you only eat what's needed for you to stand and pray. And you only sleep what's needed for you to stand and pray. And you only do your errands so that you won't be ruined. And then you spend all of your time standing praying until you make up the prayers that you missed without an excuse. And you must make up the fasting that you missed without an excuse, without delay. However, according to what is correct, once an obligatory make-up fast is commenced, it is not permissible to interrupt it. Meaning, yes, maybe you did have permission to delay making up your fast. You didn't miss your fast by transgressing. Perhaps you are a traveler, or perhaps you are sick, or perhaps you are a nursing woman or pregnant woman. So you missed your fast with an excuse. You don't have to make it up immediately. That's true. But once an obligatory makeup is commenced, once you started making it up on whatever day outside of Ramadan, it is not allowed to interrupt it because you can't interrupt an obligation. As a general rule, interrupting an obligation is a major sin. Interrupting here means invalidating. Invalidating an obligation is a major sin. Whether the fasting had to be made up immediately or not. Once you start it, then you can't break that day. And to remind you, if you are making up a day of Ramadan, which means it's outside of Ramadan, you can't make up a day of Ramadan inside of Ramadan. So if you're making up a day of Ramadan and then you broke it, that's haram if you didn't have an excuse. But do you have to continue fasting that day? You do not have to continue refraining for that day, because it's not Ramadan. Only if you're inside of Ramadan and then you break your fast, you have to continue to abstain because you have to honor the time because it's Ramadan. Outside of Ramadan, if you are performing an obligatory fast and then you break it, with or without an excuse, Yani, let's say without an excuse, if you had an excuse then. Let's say without an excuse, you're outside of Ramadan, making up an obligatory fast, and then you broke it without an excuse. Do you have to continue to refrain until Maghrib comes in? No, you don't, because it's not Ramadan. So that time outside of Ramadan does not have the honor that Ramadan has. Therefore, insanity by transgression requires immediate makeup after the Eid. Insanity by transgression, that means that you ingested something that you know it makes you intoxicated, and then you lost your mind in the process. You lost your mind in the process, now you're insane. So that invalidates the fast. So since you lost your fast, you broke your fast due to insanity, do you have an excuse to delay making it up? Not in this case, because the rules are strict on the one who went insane by transgression. But is it sinful to break obligatory fast outside of Ramadan? Yes, it is. That's what we said here. However, according to what is correct, once an obligatory fast, make-up fast is commenced, it is not allowed to interrupt it. Because as a rule, not restricted to fasting, a general rule, invalidating an obligation is a major sin. So for persons praying an obligatory prayer, even a make-up prayer, it's obligatory though, he can't just break it and stop. That's a major sin. Same thing for fasting. You can't just break it. Or like Hajj, you can't just break the Hajj and go home. Insanity by transgression requires immediate makeup after the Eid because he has no excuse. A coma throughout the entire daytime, that means you are in a coma, you fainted before Fajr came in, and you didn't wake up until after Maghrib came in. So a coma throughout the entire daytime. Coma is deeper than sleep. We're not talking about sleeping. A coma throughout the entire daytime, and traveling, and sickness require makeup with permission to delay until next Ramadan. So you missed the entire daytime because of fainting. Then you have to make that up before the next Ramadan comes in. Or because you traveled, or because you were sick and you had hope for cure. These require makeup with permission to delay until next Ramadan. The unbearably sick might hope for cure or not. Unbearably sick means he can't fast with this sickness. He might hope for cure, for recovery, or he might not hope for recovery. If so, if he does hope for recovery, he, and likewise the pregnant and nursing women who fear for themselves, even if they also feared for their babies, merely remake it with permission to delay and without a redemption payment. Okay. So, a person who's sick and he hopes to recover, he breaks his fast now, he makes it up later, and he doesn't have to fulfill a redemption payment. That's clear. Also, a pregnant woman or a nursing woman who fears for herself. She has fear for herself fundamentally. Even if these women also feared for their babies, but here she fears for herself. Not only for her baby, maybe she fears for herself and her baby, or only for herself. So the important point here is she fears for herself. Then this pregnant woman or this nursing woman breaks the fast now, makes it up later, and does not have to pay a redemption payment. However, the healthy residing woman who broke the fast only for the sake of the child, she's healthy, so she doesn't have the excuse of sickness. She's residing, so she doesn't have the excuse of travel. The healthy residing woman who broke the fast only for the sake of the child, so she has no fear for herself. She broke this fast only for someone else. Then these women must remake the fast and pay a redemption payment because they broke the fast for other than themselves, according to the strongest saint. The elderly, and that's a person who's not anticipating to become young again, and the sick without hope for cure are not obligated to remake it because the elderly is not going to turn young again, and this sick one has no hope for recovery, so they're not obligated to remake this fast. So this elderly one who has no hope to become young again, and this sick one who has no hope for recovery, these ones, they don't have to make up the fast if they missed any day, because maybe they managed to get some days. So whatever days they did miss, they don't have to remake those, but they do have to fulfill a redemption payment. The new school of Ash-Shafi'i, because Ash-Shafi'i has two madhabs. The new school of Ash-Shafi'i, and what Ash-Shafi'i documented in most of his old books, is that whoever dies having fasting of Ramadan upon him, his heir or even a stranger pays food on his behalf from his money, just like a redemption payment. 2 cupped handfuls for every missed day. 2 cupped handfuls of average size hands of the most common staple of the town, a staple that's subject to zakah. According to this, one does not fast on behalf of the dead, because fasting is a bodily worship. Every bowl can be paid to one poor Muslim. Here it says bowl. It's just to keep it easy, hopefully. What's meant by bowl is when you put those two hands together. Two hands cupped together, average size hand. So it's like a bowl. Every bowl can be paid to one poor Muslim. You don't have to pay it to a different Muslim every time. Unlike the expiation. Expiation, you have to feed 60 poor Muslims. The other saying is that it is obligatory to fast on his behalf. So we're talking about fasting for a dead person who had fasting. According to a saying, you don't fast on his behalf, you feed on his behalf. And according to a saying, you do fast on his behalf. In Ar-Rawdah and Nawawi was certain that the old school is correct. The old school is that you do fast on his behalf. So the new school of Ash-Shafi'i is that whoever dies having fasting, then food is paid on his behalf. So the old school of Ash-Shafi'i is that whoever died having fasting, his heir will actually fast on his behalf. So the other saying is that it is obligatory to fast on his behalf. That's the old school. In Ar-Rawdah and Nawawi was certain that the old school is correct. Al-Basir says that the fasting is recommended while paying is permissible. So one saying is that you pay food on his behalf. Another saying is that you fast on his behalf. Al-Basir said fasting on his behalf is recommended. And if you pay, it's still valid. This is also validly done for an expiation or a vow. Yani a Muslim died having an expiation on him, like he murdered someone and he wasn't able to free a slave, so he has to fast for 2 consecutive months, and then he died before he could complete it. So he died having obligatory fasting. Or he made a vow. He pledged himself to fast, and then he died before fulfilling that vow. So what we have mentioned is valid for these cases too, not restricted to Ramadan. According to this school, fasting is different from prayer and i'tikaf, for there being nothing narrated about the validity of replacing it by another's doing. That statement, I don't want to explain it right now. And concerning who broke his fast with an excuse, and then he died before being able to make it up, he has no makeup, and he has no redemption payment, and he has no sin. Now we have here redemption payment. We need to read the redemption payment. Redemption payment, the fidya, for missing the honor of Ramadan's fasting time. So redemption payment is for Ramadan, not for outside of Ramadan. According to the most prominent saying in the school, is paying a mud bowl. That same bowl I already told you. 2 average hands cupped together, full of the most common staple of the town for every missed day. From one's own money to the poor. He's not going to give his money to the poor. He's going to get the food so that he can feed them. If one is poor himself, it remains in his account until he is able. As opposed to Zakat al-Fitr. Zakat al-Fitr, if you're not able to pay it 1 year, it's not going to stay in your account. It's just going to be dropped from you. But this redemption payment will not be dropped. It will remain in your account until you're able to pay something. This payment is due on the sick who is hopeless of cure, the elderly, because he's like a sick person who has no hope for cure, because he has no hope for youth, and the pregnant and nursing women who broke fast for the sake of their children only, not for their own sake. So that's 3. To help you remember then. 3 who need to pay fidya. The sick who has no hope for recovery, the elderly, and the pregnant or nursing woman who broke fast for the sake of their child. So, we have these 3 cases here. The sick who is hopeless of cure. The elderly, he's like a sick person who's hopeless of cure because he has no hope for youth. And the pregnant and nursing women who broke fast for the sake of their children. The pregnant and nursing women are like the sick who hope for cure. A pregnant woman and a nursing woman is like a sick person when it comes to fasting. The rule for this sick person and this pregnant or nursing woman is that if this person is afraid when it's time to make the intention, they can leave out the intention. And if such a person actually made the intention and started fasting but then became afraid while fasting, they can break the fast. This pregnant woman or this nursing woman or the sick person who hopes for recovery. The pregnant and nursing women are like sick people, but they're going to have to make it up like a sick person who hopes for a cure, make it up. But they're going to have to pay a fidya too, make it up and pay a fidya for breaking the fast for the sake of someone else. Paying a redemption also applies to whoever delayed remaking a day of Ramadan until the next Ramadan came without an excuse. Redemption payment will increase with the increase of years, not the increase of days. What if a person had 10 days of Ramadan, he needed to make up, and then the next Ramadan came in? How many redemption payments he has to pay for this? Just one. It's not for the number of days he missed. It's for not making it up before the next Ramadan came in. But unlike the Aqiqah, it does not increase for the number of children. What? Where'd that come from? Because isn't it the case that if a woman is nursing or pregnant and she breaks the fast for the sake of her children, not for her own sake, that she has to pay a redemption payment? Yes. What if she has 2 children or 3 children? Then she only has to pay 1 redemption payment. It doesn't multiply by the number of children. As opposed to the Aqiqah multiplies with the number of children. Meaning, if you had a boy, you slaughtered 2 sheep. If you had a girl, you slaughtered 1. So if you had 2 boys, you'll slaughter 4. And if you had 2 girls, you'll slaughter 2. If you had a boy and a girl, you'll slaughter 3. So it increases with the number of children. This fidya, this redemption payment, does not increase with the number of children. Wallahu a'lam. We'll stop there.